fans, I think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the flame to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets to the AC. Deep three, pull up. He baked it in! He baked it in!
Shot at the buzzer.
Good! It's good! It's good! It's one point!
Larry Blair, reverse layup, up and in, and he's fouled. Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South Tournament to take home the 2013 crown. Look at Bio Baxter Bell.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmesley, splash.
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rome.
Got it! Pacheco with the 3. Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome into the Sea of Red basketball podcast. Nick, Kirby, Will, Mathews, Jon Manson. Football season must be over. John's back in the house. Excited to talk some Liberty hoops. Will, I assume you are fresh and ready to go with some ironclad coffee in the cup.
Yeah, man. Yeah, buddy. San Lazaro, Honduras blend from Ironclad. Maybe one of my new favorites. Likes the Mermoose. We still like the bare knuckle overall the best, but the San Lazaro blend from Honduras, check it out.
Cultured. Did I remember correctly, John? You said that Ironclad's going to be opening in Lynchburg.
Yeah, they're opening up right across from campus, basically over there. I don't know what the name of the shopping center is. I'm not good at that, but where the old. I'm dating myself now. The old Dollar Theater was over there. Wasabi's over there. Yeah. So they were supposed to open up back in the fall, but I think they've been pushed back. But it should be open soon.
Candler Station, I believe.
Well, that is exciting. Of course, Ironclad Coffee. You can get coffee online at ironcladcoffee.com. Great supporter of all things Liberty Athletics. So be sure to check them out. Well, fellas, it's been a little while. Liberty's played 4 games since we last spoke, and 3-3 in conference play. It's been a wild start. 2 of the losses were by 1 possession. The other one was 5 points at Louisiana Tech. So been right there in every game. Let's just start. We'll start with you, Will. Your state of the Flames. How are we feeling right now?
I think if you would have told me after the non-con we had that, you go in 3-3, I would have said, you'd like to be a little bit better, but then you realize how good of a conference is, and you say 3-3 could be worse. I'll take a 500 record to start the first 6 games of the conference.
John?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to be 3-3, honestly. I feel like if we could have gotten one of those, really, I think the Western Kentucky game is going to be the one that we're going to be hitting our heads about most of the season. That's one we led throughout. I know you guys talked about that one already previously, but that's one we're going to be kind of hitting our heads about throughout the season. If we were sitting here at 4-2 with the loss to UTEP, which I think UTEP's, we'll talk about them more in a minute, but I think they are arguably one of the best teams, if not the best team, right there. I think Liberty's in that mix too, in the conference. So losing to them at home in a really good game, we played well. They played well. They hit a good, they just hit the buzzer beater there at the end, or just about a buzzer beater to get us. Like, it is what it is. Losing at Louisiana Tech, not many people are gonna win there, so it's fine. But that Western Kentucky game is the one that really, I think, bites us right now.
Yeah, the La Tech game, that's a game you're not really probably supposed to win, especially when you kind of factor in where La Tech was. They lost their first 2 games. They had a great crowd there. It's on the road. That's a completely normal, understandable loss. The other 2, those were both very winnable games. The UTEP game was just incredibly frustrating for me, just because Zach Cleveland had that probably his worst game as in the Liberty uniform. Now, to Zach's credit, he really bounced back and played one of his better games, I thought, against New Mexico State. But man, that UTEP game, it felt like they had so many players that played so bad in that game. I think Moffmer was 1 for 6 from the field or something, and they still really felt like they still should have been able to pull that out. And then Western Kentucky has really been bad after the Liberty game, so that's kind of frustrating as well. I mean, I think you would expect to be 4-2 at this point, so I would say we're 1 game behind schedule. But you know what? You go and you win the next 3 on the road, 3 winnable games, but 3 tough games on the road. I mean, you make it right up and you're right back kind of where you would have expected to be.
No, I agree with you, but we'll talk about it more again. But going 3-0 in these next 3, I don't know if we should expect that. I mean, Kennesaw and Jack State, neither one of them have lost at home this season, not just this conference season, but at all. And honestly, I think FIU, we'll be favored in that game, and I think we should be favored in that game, but I'm not sure that's necessarily a really good matchup for us. Doesn't mean we won't win. I certainly think we can, but they like to get up and down the floor, run a lot, and if they get the game up into the 80s like they want it to be, do we have enough to get to it? Not that we do, but with really 6 guys playing a lot and the way teams are playing us, especially Matheny, we don't want to score in the 80s. If we can keep it down in the 60s and keep that game like we like it, I feel a lot more confident in that one. But it'll be really tough. These next 3 games, any game on the road in conference play, we learned last year is tough. It's no different this year. So I just like to say that I don't know if any of us should expect, if we go 3-0, I will be shouting from the rooftops anything you want me to shout. I will take 2-1 today and not even play them.
I would think 2-1 is probably the expectation here. So I'm just saying, you could go 3-0 and theoretically get that game back. I'm not in any way expecting that. Kind of like when I said the best team in school history, I didn't say they were. I said they could be and lose 5 games, and it went sideways on me there. But the good thing about FIU is they're not very good. They're a terrible offensive team, one of the worst in the country. So I think that it's a good team to maybe go a little deeper on your bench and give these guys a little bit more run, which is something we'll definitely talk about. Guys like Brett Decker, I'd love to see him get a lot of minutes against FIU. And I kind of anticipate that probably will happen.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems in the past, these FIU games are kind of the games we've struggled a little bit with. So I think you're spot on. I think 2-1 should be the expectation. 3-0, very happy if that happens. 0-3, not happy because it's still pretty early on in the conference season, and we're kind of right in the middle of the standings here. So there's ground to be made up. FIU, I think, even though it might be a game that we've historically had trouble with, I think this team is probably better than the teams the last couple of years, and it's a different team, and they don't care what Liberty teams in the past have done or struggled with. So just looking forward to the stretch because the next road stretch is a little bit tougher than this one.
Yeah, if you look at FIU too, put yourself in their shoes for just a minute. They're 1-5 right now, coming off 2. They've had a very similar to us schedule. Where they're travel partners. They played UTEP and New Mexico State this past week, lost both of those. Both less than 10 points. So they're 1-5, and they got Liberty at home, and then they hit the road for those 2 against Kennesaw and Jack State. So they're if they lose to Liberty, they're 1-6. With 2 very difficult games on the road coming up. I mean, it might end their regular season. I mean, you still get the conference tournament, but if they lose to Liberty, they're going to be fighting and scratching and clawing to try to stay out of the basement all season.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty confident against FAU, FIU, whatever they are. No disrespect.
I like to have that FAU game back too, right?
Yeah, that one too. Man, like 3 of the 4 losses, I mean, were games that absolutely could have won, and really should have won all of those games. But I don't know. FIU, I think that this Liberty team's really good defensively. I just don't see how they're going to score enough points to beat Liberty. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. One other kind of topic, something I've kind of found interesting, and this isn't necessarily strictly just Liberty, but college basketball in general. The more I've watched, all road games are not equal in college basketball. And I'm not talking even in terms of how good these teams are. But like when Liberty played Sam Houston, I think there was like 15 people at that game. And then they go to La Tech, and it was a pretty, raucous environment. I feel like you also have to kind of like Kennesaw at home is probably much better than Sam Houston at home, because Kennesaw is going to bring, especially when they're playing Liberty. So I think that also can kind of play a factor into these games a little bit more too than necessarily just the numbers.
Was that a Christmas break game?
It was, it was like probably coming back. I think it was the 6th.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can, it'd be nice to catch some of these really good teams that have a difficult road environment for us to play, like on these breaks like that. That doesn't always break that way. I don't know. Maybe we can get Ian McCall to pull some strings and get us a road game at La Tech next year. Thanksgiving break or something.
FIU, your most difficulty on the road is just making sure you don't step out of bounds on that wave.
Yeah. Don't forget. I was watching some of their game against UTEP Saturday before heading over to Liberty's game, and that court is just terrible. So we're all going to be reminded of it on Saturday afternoon. So just get ready for it now. You can't tell what's out of bounds and what's not. It's awful.
Yeah, we got to stop with these specialty designed courts. The different colored turfs on the football field. I mean, Donald Trump will make it right.
Oh boy, here we go. All right.
We made it 12 minutes without a political comment.
I mean,
listen, we need convocation 3 times a week at this point.
Looking at Conference USA overall, so you have a 3-way tie at the top: Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, and UTEP. Pretty funny that Liberty's beat 2 of those 3 teams, and again, the other one we just mentioned they should have beat. Then Jacksonville State 3-2, Kennesaw 3-2, Liberty 3-3, and then Western Kentucky and La Tech. Western's 2-3, La Tech is 2-4. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I continue to beat the drum. I think Liberty's the best team in this conference. I think there's a pretty significant gap, although Middle Tennessee, some of their numbers are really starting to look impressive, which is wild since we did beat them, but their numbers are really looking good. And then New Mexico State, they played a bad game on Saturday, but their numbers in conference play have been elite. So they're another team that kind of scares me, but I don't know. This whole regular season, for me, it's all about just getting better for the conference tournament, trying to be ready, being healthy, and not doing too much to screw up our seed if we're able to win the tournament. Because you could be a 6 seed in this tournament, and I just don't think there's any advantage to being a 6 or a 1. Because I don't think the best teams are going to probably even be at the top. You know what I mean? Like La Tech might be a 5 or 6 seed, and so I don't know. This is just going to be a weird conference season. And I have another thing I want to get to, a question for you guys, but just the conference in general. It's a good conference, but it's hard to really say who's good and who's bad and who's whatever.
It's unpredictable. I mean, every game is close. Every game seems like it's, except for some of those first few games of the conference season, everything's been coming down to, the wire. So I don't know. I almost feel like we shouldn't even be picking preseason favorites in Conference USA anymore. I don't know. It doesn't seem to shake out like the voters say it will. It doesn't shake out like the way Kirby, you and I, and maybe John think that it should. So I don't know. I think you're spot on though. Just stay healthy. Seemed like last year we were just very tired coming down the stretch. Seems like it was affecting our shooters. And so just want us to stay healthy, even if that means we got to find some more quality minutes on the bench somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting. It's an interesting conference season. We can talk more about it, but I just feel like, like kind of to your point, Nick, is like how much these games really matter. Like, and we can talk about the conference tournament and the bracket. I mean, you want to be in the top 6, obviously, because there's like that play in if you're 7 through 10, and then you have to turn around and play the next night against either the 1 or the 2 seed. And is there an advantage? Would you rather be a 1 or 2 seed? You get to play a team, less than 24 hours coming off that play-in round, and then you get a day off if you were to win the quarterfinal game before you play in the semis on what is it, Thursday, I think it is, or maybe Friday. But so yeah, that's probably a little bit of an advantage to get to the 1 or 2. But other than that, I don't think it really matters much where you're at. And you've heard Coach McKay talk about it in some of his press conferences recently. It's more about your matchup in the game, like getting a team that you match up good against. And you were talking about La Tech maybe being a 5 or 6 seed. Like, how terrible would it be for Liberty to get in the 4 or 5 game again and have to play La Tech and Daniel Bacho in the quarterfinals? I mean, that's the last thing we want, right? I mean, you'd much rather get a Sam Houston or obviously an FIU or somebody like that in the first round. But at the same time, it's like, what team is a good matchup for you? I mean, we haven't gone through the whole league one time. Maybe once we get through it all once, we'll have a better idea about that. But you mentioned Middle Tennessee, their numbers looking a lot better, Nick, and they are. But I felt like in that game against Liberty, like I was never really worried in that game. It just felt like Liberty controlled that game throughout, even more so than the Western game. The Western game, all second half, I kept looking to score, and they were nicking away at it, and I was never felt comfortable. But it was never that way in Middle Tennessee. The only reason why maybe I did feel 5% nervous during that game is because of what just happened Thursday night with the Western comeback. So, I'm not sure. And even the UTEP game, like I said, I think UTEP is right there at the top of the league. We were right there with them, and you pointed out how we had a couple guys didn't play very well, and New Mexico State, we kind of controlled that game, and we had one of our worst shooting nights from 3 in years, only making 3, and 2 of those came from Xander Yates, which hat tip to him in his play that night. So it's really any given night. I saw our good friend Paul Naz again before the game Saturday, and you're sitting there at 2 and 3 at that point in time, 20 minutes before the game starts, and you're getting ready to take on a New Mexico State team who's 4-0 in conference, just came off a 30-point drubbing of UTEP. They also beat Louisiana Tech by 30, and you're thinking, when do we get to play one of those easy games in conference? That's an easy win, and I have to remind myself, and I think as Liberty fans, we all have to remind ourselves, is we're not in the A-Sun anymore, right? I mean, you're not getting no disrespect to any of these teams, but you're not getting a Stetson or a Jacksonville or whoever else is at the bottom of that league where you're expecting to win by 20. It's every night is a battle, and every night it's going to come down to the last, 2 media timeouts where, if you're a Liberty fan, you're hoping you're playing from in front. I feel a lot better about our chances there than having to try to play catch up. But every night's a battle, and it's a grind. And, at the end of the day, what matters until you get to Huntsville and those 3 games, hopefully you get to play in down there.
I was kind of thinking this the other day, and this is going to come across a little hot topic-y, but I don't really mean it to be. But I'm thinking, like, man, it's really cool to be in Conference USA. It's great to be in the 9th best conference, but Conference USA is a one-bid league. And I'm looking at the ASON, and I'm like, I mean, Lipscomb's good this year. Don't get me wrong. But, like, Liberty would be running through these teams. And it's almost like, what's the payoff? I mean, overall, it's great for Liberty long-term. Like, you have to take these steps to go to Conference USA if you ever want to become an at-large contender year after year. If you ever want to be a Gonzaga-type school or even the lighter version of that. Like, you have to take these steps. But right now, when you're in it and you're in the 9th best conference, it's almost like, well, we got a 12 seed in the ASUN. Like, and if you win the ASUN, you get home games in the conference tournament. It's almost like, man, it kind of almost in some ways stinks because you put the same group of players for Liberty the next 5 years. If they don't get an at-large, how many times are they going to make the NCAA tournament, the ASUN? How many times are they going to make it in Conference USA? It's kind of almost an unfair advantage, which is another major problem, and I could go on a long tangent against college basketball. It's like you don't reward these mid-major teams that are really good because they don't get the same opportunities to where you have a couple bad nights, you can't recover from it.
It's a very interesting conversation, especially if you go into, will the tournament be expanded? What that benefits Liberty, Conference USA. I think it's something just as a fan, as a former student, alumni, you know, you go home and you tell your friends, hey, I went to a basketball game this week. Oh, who did you play? North Alabama versus, UTEP or, Western Kentucky. Like from that standpoint, as an alumni, yes, give me Conference USA all day long. But yeah, it is kind of a bummer that, this is, we have maybe one of the greatest teams in school history. And it might not even get you it won't even get you to the NIT at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've had the same thoughts recently is you have the same path, right? Whether you're in the ASUN, the Big South, or now Conference USA, you have the same path to the NCAA tournament unless, you have just an insane year one year, and you need some help outside of your control in that regard too. But it's one path, and that's to win your conference tournament, and it's so much more difficult to do so in Conference USA. I mean, look at last year, Western Kentucky. If you ask any of their fans, they were not happy with the way the season went, 8-8. What they end up, the 3 seed, I think it was. They got that on the last day, and they were one game away from being a 6 or a 7 seed going in the tournament. And then they get hot, the ball bounces the right way a few times, and they also, I think, got fortunate to not have to play a Louisiana Tech or even a Sam Houston, and they win the conference championship, and everything changes. Like their head coach is now at Oklahoma State, and they're talking so much about repeating this year and all that sort of stuff, and you never know what's going to happen. So it's when you're going through it, you don't enjoy it. But at the same time, like before, when we were getting ready to go into Conference USA, I was thinking, man, getting to play a UTEP. I mean, that's a team. I was thinking about that Thursday night at Liberty Arena. That's a team that won, again, it was 60, 70 years ago. They won a national championship, and now they're playing at Liberty Arena, and same thing like Western Kentucky. They've been to Final Fours before, and I was able to, when I was at the Western Kentucky football game last year, I was able to go into Diddle Arena, and you walk around and see some of the history on some of those walls, and just walk into that arena. I mean, that's not Stetson, right? It's not Jacksonville, Swisher Gym, right? I mean, again, no disrespect to those teams, but we've stepped into a new playing field, a new level, and these teams, a lot of them are chartering planes to come in and play us. Like that didn't happen. We used to be, for so long, Liberty was heads and shoulders above our competition in terms of spending, right? In terms of our budget. That's not the case anymore. I mean, Western, Middle, those teams really invest a lot into basketball and NIL space as well too. And same thing with UTEP and some of their support, and New Mexico State as well too. I mean, I can go all the way through the list of the teams. Liberty is not heads and shoulders above everybody in the in terms of spending and budget and all that stuff. So it's a whole nother a level that we're playing with.
Yeah, no disrespect to Presbyterian or Longwood, but it's just much more fun to say, hey, we competed against Middle Tennessee. I'm sure Joel Vanderpool would have liked to have said, yeah, we beat a top 100 UTEP team to go to the NCAA tournament over whoever it was they beat that year. Was it Asheville or something like that? But
A&T.
I'm talking about the Big South tournament that they won.
Oh,
Charleston Southern.
Thank you. Case point. Like, it's fun to play with the bigger boys, I should say, than the Big South days.
Don't refer to UTEP as a top 100 team. They have been a top 100 team since 2015.
All right, hypothetically,
they're not. They're not a consistent good team. We got a question here.
Yeah, neither are the Reds, but keep going.
Whoa! What was that for?
Shots fired.
We're on the same team here. Dan asked a good question. How many KenPom projected losses is Liberty expected to take? Expected to finish 11-7 right now is the official math there. Although Liberty is favored in every single game. Now they're not. They're not. Middle Tennessee is now favored by 1 point. It is a 50%.
50-50.
Yeah, 50-50. They gave Middle Tennessee the, I guess, 10th of a point to swing it one way or the other. But
Nick, it's funny. You look up and down through, I don't know how many people are nerds like you and I, but, you look at a lot of these percentage, 63%, 53, 57, percent chance to win 50, 56. Like, that didn't happen, talking about ASUN. It'd be 87, 85, 95, 97. You might have a 77 here and there when you're playing at a Lipscomb or UNF or whoever. So it's it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, FIU is 243, and they are by far the worst in CUSA. And ASUN, you have 4 teams in the 300. No, 5 teams in the 300s. You have 3 teams in the 200s. It is.
That's what I was going to say. We're talking about FIU being the worst team, but if they're in the ASUN, at worst they're a middle of the pack team, right?
They're hosting a tournament.
They're playing at home their first round. So again, they're
with the bye.
They'll play. They're probably a top 4, top 5 seed. They might even be better than that, because honestly, them at 243 is a lot due to being 1-5 in Conference USA. If they're over in the ASUN and they're 4-2 or whatever right now, they might not be 243, and they might be 182 or something. So FIU is go back to JVP's favorite quote tonight. No disrespect to FIU, they're a lot better than the worst team in the conference, but they are the worst team in the conference.
There's some school named West Georgia in the ASUN now, and what happened to Bellarmine? Bellarmine is 355th in KenPom. They are 3-16 and 0-6. What happened?
Yeah, the point is you win games and you recruit better and get better, right? It doesn't seem like that's the case at Bellarmine. Maybe we could just switch out FIU for Lipscomb. What do you think?
There you go. That'll help the numbers.
Little conference swap. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I have about 4 topics that are kind of the hot button topics around Liberty basketball that we're going to discuss. We'll get to that here in
around
just
the
a
horn
second.
style.
Around the horn style. But first, we have a message from our good friend Jason Porter.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jason Porter. I'm with Legacy Realty and Development, and it's been a great partnership here with Sea of Red lately. I was with Liberty Athletics as the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, so took care of all of the healthcare needs and coordinated that with a fantastic staff at Liberty in the athletic department, of course, for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into real estate full-time and with Legacy Realty and Development. And it's just been a great pleasure to continue to stay connected with my Liberty University family and the athletics family as well. Been enjoying serving them. A lot of the graduate assistants and some of the staff that I hired has come back now and has been using me for residential services, which I really appreciate. But certainly do residential real estate as far as buying and selling of homes, of course. And then also we have a strong commercial presence as well. So commercial real estate, obviously a very, very different animal than is residential. But whether it's buying and selling commercial properties or just the leasing of properties, we can help with that as well. So it's been a great opportunity to service our commercial clients as well. And then certainly on the investment front too, a number of folks who have discovered the power of passive income through real estate and investing in real estate with rental properties or fix and flips, those kind of things. And so great joy to serve my clients in that capacity as well. The other thing that I would add too is just a very, very full Rolodex at this point of contractors and subs and just different professional contacts that I've made through the years. So if I can ever provide any of those folks to you and all of a sudden you need a plumber or an electrician or a contractor to build your deck, whatever, I'd certainly be glad to give you access to that Rolodex and those references as well. Because a lot of times it's not exactly who you know, it's who you know that knows how to do the job well. And so I would be glad to provide those services for you as well. So love Flames Nation, love taking care of my Liberty family. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, my contact information is all right here on the screen. And I would love to be a service to you and yours. Thanks so much.
All right, fellas, we ready for the hottest of hot topics?
Let's get into it.
Does that include Coach McKay and his job status?
No, you're an idiot if you think that Coach McKay should be fired or that should be a conversation. And I do not want to talk to you, and you're not my friend.
Blocked.
Yes, it is an instant block. I think I have 10 people blocked, and it's all because Coach McKay should be fired. And the rest are UTEP people. How big of a deal is the free throw shooting? Your Liberty Flames are 352nd in college basketball. I think there's 366. That's somewhere around there is the amount of teams. 352nd, shooting 63.9%. John, how big of a deal is the free throw shooting?
It is a big deal. Like, I don't think we can gloss over it. And I kind of cheated a little bit. I was listening to the NASCAR podcast, which shout out to them. I think that came out earlier tonight. They were talking about it a little bit too. And I agree with a lot of what they had to say. But these games, I think Scar said this to some degree, is these games in Conference USA, we've been talking about them, how they come down to the last few minutes, last few possessions. You know, we lost a 1-point game and a 2-point game and also a 5-point game. You know, obviously if you make a few more free throws in each of those, we're not 3-3, right? We're 4-2, 5-1. So it's obviously a big deal. You know, the margin for error is so slim in some of these games that you need to make your free throws when you can. But, I see so much talk on social media about how, Coach McKay needs to do a better job at coaching them up and on free throw shooting and stuff. I mean, again, I don't go to Liberty practices, but I can guarantee you there's not a practice that goes by that they're not shooting free throws to some extent. I mean, they shoot them every game, pre-game. You see them out there shooting them all the time, and most of these guys are really good shooters, right? I mean, Caden Matheny, Colin Porter, Peter. I mean, you go down the list of all these guys that are good shooters, and those are the guys that are shooting pretty well from free throw line. Caden struggled a little bit here recently, but I think the biggest issue is who's getting to the line the most, and it's mainly been Zach and Owen. And again, they've struggled from the line. I mean, when they go to the line and they get there a decent amount of times, you feel good if you make 1 out of 2. That's just how it has been for them. And I look at a guy like Javon Moffmer. I mean, he shot, his last 3 years, I'll throw out his freshman year at Cedarville, but his last couple of years, he shot right at 80%. I throw out that first year because he didn't get to the line but like 18 times. So I think he was like 7 for 14 or 9 for 18 or whatever it was, right around 50%. I'll throw that out, just not enough data. But his previous 2 years or last 2 years, he was right around 80%. At Cedarville, well, you look at what he's doing at Liberty, he's at 56%. So it's not like this guy all of a sudden forgot how to shoot. It's just maybe gotten into his head a little bit. Maybe it's a little contagious. People talking about it. You're thinking about it more. So I think there will be I'm hopeful there will be some positive regression that happens throughout the last, however many games we have left, 14 or so. And then I also hope, like Talon Peter was 5 for 5, I think Thursday night against UTEP from the free throw line. Hope guys like him get to the line more. Caden Matheny gets to the line more, and Colin Porter and Moffmer. I'm confident in him being able to knock them down too. But when they do it, they gotta knock them down. But yes, it is something that we should be concerned about. But I also think it's probably been made too big of a deal slightly on social media, and that's because I think it's one of the most glaring weaknesses this team has. Probably is the biggest, most glaring weakness that the team has, because there's not a ton to point out, right? I mean, you can sit there and pick apart, you play 2 sub-6 foot guards and you're not a great offensive rebounding team. Well, newsflash, Liberty's never been a good offensive rebounding team under McKay because he just doesn't care for it. That's part of the pack line principles is that, you might send one guy to crash boards and everybody else is going back. So, I mean, look at offensive free throw. When you're shooting at the free throw line, there's just sometimes you have no guys on the line. That's just what he does. You'd rather get back on defense. So anyways, I think we make a bigger deal about the free throw shooting than it needs to be, but it is something we shouldn't overlook. And it is a concern, and it does make me nervous when we're up by 2 going into the last 2 minutes. And you've seen Coach McKay take, Zach Cleveland, put him on the bench some late in games. And, fortunately we got a lot of ball handlers. You mentioned Brett Decker. I mean, he's a guy that, again, not a lot of data, but he's been a solid free throw shooter, and you would expect him to continue to be. So yes, it's a concern and something we need to be concerned about. But again, I don't know if it's, it's not like Coach McKay just like throwing up his hands like, oh, well, we're just a bad free throw shooting team. Let's move on. I don't know what you can do, to improve those numbers in season.
I don't know what I could follow up any differently than what John just said. I mean, I do think it is a big deal. I don't think it is fire McKay worthy. I don't know how you coach it other than you just send them out there to practice it, and or they take it upon themselves to just take the extra time when they've got free time to go out there and shoot them. I mean, it's almost unfathomable to think that a team that is as good as shooting 3-pointers as they are struggle at the line. But it's just one of those things, also, John, to your point of, the talk of Richie on the hot seat, I see a lot of, he's not recruiting big men. Well, we have we forgotten about Enan? Like, he recruited Enan, the guy got hurt. What do you do? He's not going to help us at the free throw line much, I don't think. He's going to help us with the size and things like that. But that's a different topic maybe. But the free throw thing it's a little concerning when all these games are close.
Yeah, and I think, Will, just to piggyback on that comment is like, we haven't talked about Enan so far tonight until now, and we could talk about the free throw shooting like we have, and we could be 5-1 if we made some of these free throws. Certainly 4-2. With Enan, I think we are 5-1, right? And it's just, it's unfortunate he went down and got hurt, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And again, it's not an excuse. That's just the way it goes. And we do have a lot of size. It's just unfortunate, obviously Enan's hurt. Josh Smith, who I think is going to be a good player for this team next year, another 6'9" kid. We knew when we brought him in through the portal this summer that, he got hurt late for Stetson, an NCAA tournament team. in March, and he was going to miss the year. So it's kind of like, you got him, but you had to, like the old transfer rules, you had to sit out a year before you can play next year. So, but you also got other guys that unfortunately they're just not ready, or they're not able to provide us something. And hopefully that changes with Xander. I think we saw a flash out of him Saturday that I liked. Just his tenacity, his toughness, his grit. Obviously knocking down some open threes helps too. But you think about like a Bryson Spell, it's unfortunate he is not a guy that you can count on for much right now. He's in like his third, maybe fourth year in the program. Caillou's another guy. Just it'd be nice if you could get 5 minutes out of him. He's just not there yet. I'm sure there's another guy or two I'm not thinking of right now, but we've got the size, and they're just for whatever reason, whether it's injury or they're just not, they haven't developed at the rate we want them to. We don't have that depth.
Yeah, I mean the free throws are a massive concern, but again, I'm with you. It's not really a whole lot that you can do with it, and I think there'll be some improvements, but I don't think there's going to be that much. I don't think Liberty's 352nd, but I'm not sure Liberty's better than 250th or something like that.
Well, how much of it is just mental, right? I mean, free throw seems to be somewhat of it is just a mental game. You think about it like with golfers in their putt game and kickers, field goal kickers. I'm sure it's in baseball too. Sometimes pitchers just can't find the strike zone. It's just a mental part of the game, right?
Zach Cleveland is shooting 54% from the free throw line, shot 54% last year, shot 55% as a freshman. So again, I mean, mental, whatever it is, I'm not going to expect it just to get better overnight. I mean, it kind of is the player he is. Owen Aquino,
it seems like it's – sorry, Kirby. Go ahead.
Owen Aquino shot 61% last year in JUCO. I mean, kind of what these players are, and unfortunately, those two guys get to the line almost half of the team's rate. I mean, Liberty has two players that rank in the top 500 in terms of getting to the free throw line, and Cleveland and Aquino are in the top 230. So, I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. But you look at a guy like Zach Cleveland. Zach Cleveland is, both of those guys are probably the two best pro prospects on Liberty, and not just in terms of NBA, but in terms of playing overseas. And the first thing any pro scout's going to tell them is you have to get better at the free throw line. So those two guys individually have all the motivation in the world to get better. And I fully expect they're doing everything they can to get better, but sometimes it just doesn't happen for you. I mean, there's been Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, you don't think he wanted to be better at the free throw line. He tried everything he could. It never worked out. But my last point on this is this. Go look at Richie McKay's teams. Most of them are pretty good, but they fluctuate. The 2019 team that won the NCAA tournament was 6th in the country in free throw shooting. The next year, the team that I think most of us view as the best team in Liberty history, they were 162nd. They fell. Same personnel mostly, right? What happened? Did Richie forget how to coach free throws? I think it just sometimes it just, it is what it is on a particular year.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to point back to that. I didn't have the numbers in front of me, but I knew earlier in his tenure, his second time around, that we've had some teams that were really good free throw shooting teams. I think that team in 2019, it must have been, we flirted with the team record at Liberty for free throw shooting percentage as a team. I think, it may have been either Lavelle or Georgie flirted with the individual best season, and I think also best career free throw percentage shooters. So, I think that's a really good point you make, Nick, that it's not like McKay's teams have always been bad free throw shoot. It's just about your personnel and who's getting to the line the most. And I think we've kind of belabored the point, but it's Zach and it's Owen, and they're just not good free throw shooters. it is what it is.
Yeah. Actually, John, the team before 2018 was the best. They were, they were fourth, but they were 80%. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, it's a problem. I don't think it's going to get that much better, and it just kind of stinks, and you hope you can ride the wave. Again, I think I said this before we went on. Zach Cleveland shooting 60%. The numbers still say that is a decent value in terms of points per possession. So while it feels ugly, it still is a good thing if he continues to get to the free throw line. As long as you don't get below that 60 mark, getting the free throw line is still a good thing. So in terms of you have to pull the guy from the game and whatnot, there might be certain late situations that you do, but overall it still, I think, equates to okay. It is wasted opportunities, but it is what it is. All right, let's move on to the next one. Liberty's defense. This has been kind of a hot topic that I've seen. Liberty, I think, played pretty poorly in the second half against Western Kentucky. A lot of credit, I think, to them. Same thing with La Tech. But the numbers say this is one of the best Liberty defensive teams. In fact, it says Liberty is the second best defensive team in terms of defensive efficiency. What do you guys think about Liberty's defense overall?
I feel, I'm not the numbers guy like you are, but I feel like just eye test, just me watching games as a mostly casual fan, they look a lot better. And I think that's encouraging because there are so many new pieces to this team that have not played in this Richie McKay system before. Last year you had guys that had been in it for their whole career, and just by watching them, they look like they are running the pack line more efficiently than what that team did last year.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference in this year's team on the defensive end is having a guy like Owen on the back line. There's so many times, and it doesn't always show up in the stat sheet, right? He's still averaging over 1 block per game, and he does get his fair share, obviously, but it's just him coming over contesting shots. The guard will beat their guy and he'll slide over and make them kick it out. So that helps a lot. We didn't have that last year. It was you get by that front line and there was really nobody challenging anything at the rim. Well, now they got Owen to deal with most of the time. And Zach does a decent job there as well too. And then I think one thing that I haven't really heard talked about much, Colin Porter has really gotten a lot better as a defender. If you think back to his freshman year when it was, our last year in the ASUN, again, not to bring up bad memories, but that Kennesaw State championship game down in Kennesaw, why did Kennesaw beat us? It was because they had those big guards and they would take Colin and Darius into the paint time after time again, played bully ball, and we couldn't do anything about it. And again, no discredit to Darius. I think he's, if not the GOAT, he's on the Mount Rushmore of Liberty basketball players of all time. But his defense was number two. But his defense was never a strength of his game, especially if he was going up against a bigger guard, and that was the same could be said for Colin his freshman year too. He just got bullied. So that's not the case this year. If you take some time and watch him on defense. Again, guys are bigger than him, but he doesn't back down from them. And yeah, sometimes a 6'4" guard will be able to score over top of him. That's just physics, right? But more times than not, he's standing his own and turning some of those guys away and making them either have to take a tough shot or to pass it out. So he's gotten a lot better. Caden's also tough and gritty as well too. So they're small, but they also do a good job. And then also we've seen Moffmer kind of take over as that lead defender of the top perimeter guy. And he's done a solid job too. And we haven't had a guy with his length on the perimeter that can defend some of these guys. Even Vincent was, 6'2", 6'3", and Moffmer's a legit 6'6", and so his length can cause some problems. And again, he's not the best defender we've ever had, obviously, but he's a good individual defender in his own right.
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, the numbers flipped. I don't know what it flipped since the last game. I'm guessing it's just the overall rankings, but this Liberty team currently is the best in school history in terms of their ranking defensively. They are 50th right now in adjusted defensive efficiency. 2023, they were 51st. The 2020 team was 69th. 2019 was 87th. But the thing with defense, and I was having a really good conversation. I was texting actually with our good friend Joel, kind of just talking through like adjusted efficiency and kind of, what that means. The thing you have to account for is these Conference USA teams are significantly better offensive teams than you saw in the ASUN. So you're an adjusted defense counts that. They put that's factored in terms of your overall quality of play. So giving up 70 points to Western Kentucky is in some respects more impressive than holding some of these ASUN teams to 55 points. And also the overall, if you look at the tempo overall, every team varies a lot, but it's significantly faster play in Conference USA than in the ASUN. So I don't know exactly. I mean, I think that some of those adjusted defense can maybe get skewed a little bit, and maybe not. But when I look at a big leap, like this team last year was 180th to 50th. I don't think the numbers lie that much. I think this team's really, really good defensively. I think the offense is a bigger problem for Liberty, and it mainly is the free throw shooting.
Mm-hmm. Remember back in the ASUN days when like our biggest defensive question was every year was, what are we going to do with Asajula? Like what do we do with that? And now it's like, you've got an Asajula or two every single night in conference. So,
and sometimes that's their third best player. I mean, like was it UTEP? Their big guy is good and would be an Asajula type guy, but he was probably their third guy on their scouting report. And Jonathan Abar, we're going to see him on Saturday. He was a UNF transfer. He's now at FIU. He was a problem on some of those UNF teams. Get my Florida schools mixed up, but he was a problem with some of those. But again, he's probably down not the depth chart, but the scouting report order. These teams are they're good. They got good players and a lot of size and length too. And unfortunately, we can match up with some of that this year.
All right,
we probably don't give Richie his flowers. Probably for this year, we don't give Richie his flowers enough for gelling a team around the pack line with so many new pieces added to the puzzle.
All right, next one. And this is one I want to go first on. This is one that drove me nuts. So the other day, I think it was La Tech, Caden Matheny goes 1 for 5 from 3. And I see all these Caden shooting this team out of the game. And oh man, those kill me. Caden Matheny, I don't know how he's become underrated. This guy's shooting 42% from 3. I mean, look at Darius McGee's career numbers. I mean, he never got above 40. I mean, for Matheny to be shooting 42% and shooting at the volume that he is, it's really impressive. And like, he's gonna have off nights, but it's just funny to me how like Matheny, when he goes 1 for 5, he's shooting the team out of the game. But Zach Cleveland like has an off night. He goes 1 for 6, and his shots are around the rim. You never hear Zach Cleveland shooting the team out of the game. The 3-ball is important in college basketball. And for Liberty, and for this team in particular, Caden Matheny's not the best player on this team, but I think he's the most indispensable.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I don't worry anything about what Caden. Sorry, my internet's lagging, so I'm cutting everybody off. But
you're good.
There's a blizzard outside here. Half inch of snow collecting. But yeah, I don't have any time for Caden blasphemy. from the fan base. Part of that may be just flashbacks of Kennesaw State and Darius McGee. We're living and dying by his three, and he did not make any. So maybe some PTSD from that. But I mean, Caden has been just so clutch since he's gotten here that I don't worry about anything with Caden.
So I will disagree with you slightly, Nick. Now, I'll preface this by saying when you have a main rotation of 6, all 6 of them are indispensable. Like if we go down one more guy, we're going to be hurting. But I would say I think Owen is the most indispensable. If he goes down, like I don't know what you do. So again, let's hope we all stay healthy. That's the most important thing. But yeah, I mean, watch teams play Caden. Like him being able to make a shot, period, is a great feat. I mean, they pick him up at half court, sometimes full court, deny him the entire time. He's getting the Darius treatment. And we would still, when Darius got that treatment, we still forced him the ball and he still forced shots up. Whereas with this team, it's a little bit different. And that's due to, having 6 guys that, you feel like could go out and get you 15 or 20 any given night. And you feel confident in all 6 of those guys to do that. We didn't have that in some of those teams that Darius was on at the end of his career, but Caden's getting that treatment, and he's getting it against guys that are, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". They've obviously got him in the height department. Maybe Caden's a little bit quicker than they are, and he can get a shot off. But every time he gets a chance, he gets a clean look. I want him to take that shot because you feel so confident. I mean, again, I don't want to talk about Darius too much, but there were some times when it felt like even Darius, when he got a clean look, I feel more confident maybe so in Caden being able to knock down that open shot than maybe I did with Darius, just because Caden he shoots it at such a good clip. But no, and you don't really see him have many of those games where he goes 1 for 11. Like I'm sure you could probably find 1 or 2 if you dig it up, but like the other night, he didn't make a field goal until midway through the second half, but I think he attempted 4 or 5 shots. He just didn't take a lot. And I asked him about it post game Saturday night is what is it like to have to face this type of defense every night? And he's like, if they want to take me out of the game, that's fine. They can take me out of the game. I got 4 other guys on the court at any given time that I feel confident in them getting their shot. And we've seen guys like Colin Porter's been aggressive. He was a key part of that win Saturday over New Mexico State and his aggressiveness, because last year it felt like Colin, a lot of times he'd drive into the paint and he would just circle around and come back out the other side, then pass it off to somebody. Whereas this year it seems like he's been more aggressive and assertive in the paint at finishing. So no, I'm not at all concerned about Caden Matheny shooting us out of any games. I feel if he's got a clean look, let him shoot it. I don't feel like he jacks up too many shots. I feel like if he can get the space to get a shot off, let him take it.
Yeah.
More times than not, he's going to keep us in the game.
Yeah, he is going to keep us in the game. And agree, Nick. Colin's over 40%. He's around 42 or 43 last time I looked.
He's up to 45%.
Wow.
Now, I mean, he's only at 49 attempts to Caden's 119. But I mean, when you're shooting 119 attempts and you're shooting 42% in this league, I mean, again, you have to give him the green light. And to your point, John, he just does so much, even when he doesn't get a shot. He spaces the floor, all those kind of things. So, yeah, and his game logs aren't bad at all. I think his worst game of the year is 2 for 9 against McNeese. I mean, that's not that bad for a high-volume three-point shooter, and Liberty won that game.
There was also one of those games in the Virgin Islands, I think it was Louisiana, where he had, I don't know if I should say a poor first half, but he didn't score much. He might have had 2 points in the first half or something like that. And then all of a sudden he had a flurry of activity in the second half, and you look up and he's got 20 points, and you're thinking, what just happened? And so anybody that can do that, like, yeah, you let him shoot it if he's got the space and the rhythm. And again, I don't think I've ever once felt this season that like, oh, Caden, what are you doing? Like you're jacking up too many. I don't think I've ever felt that one time this season.
Yeah. Last topic here is the depth. I know that's kind of our big concern. We've talked about this a lot, so I don't want to go too laboring on it, but I would like to see, especially against a team like FIU, Decker get some more minutes. I'd love to see him get some run because I think he has some serious upside. I think you need to do that. If anything else, you need to protect this team in terms of their health and in terms of their stamina going into the Conference USA tournament. Having said all that, I think you can win a Conference USA tournament with 6 players, with a 6-man rotation. Villanova won a national championship with 6 men, but I think it's more about preserving than necessarily it being a huge problem come tournament time.
Go ahead, John.
I was waiting for you. No, I think you hit it, Nick. Is I'm not concerned about having 6 primary guys for those 3 games in Huntsville. I'm more worried about getting to Huntsville with those 6 guys that have enough left in the tank. They could still be healthy when you get there, but not quite have enough in the tank to get you across the finish line. That's what I'm more concerned about. I'd like to see. I'm glad Coach McKay has gone with. He's found time for Yates, found minutes for Yates the last few games. He's found a few minutes here and there for G McKay. I like to see that continue. I think both of those are worthy of 7 to 10 minutes a night to give the other guys a break. And again, picking and choosing the time you put them in there and who they're in there with. I would be fine. I think Decker, we've talked about it before earlier in the year, how, his biggest, concern and why he's not getting the time, because you look at what he does on offense, like he deserves to be out there, but it's obviously on defense, and McKay's not going to put you out there. Like that's why Gabriel McKay is playing, is because McKay can trust him on defense. And you see that when he's out there, he may even be an upgrade at times when he's on the floor for his defensive play, defense specifically, but that's not the case necessarily with Decker yet. So hopefully Decker can find 5 or 7 minutes here and there in games, especially like hopefully you can get a lead against an FIU or maybe some of these home games later in the year too. So any time you can steal a few minutes from those guys as well too, shoot. And again, this is me, we're being armchair quarterbacks type here, but I would be fine putting Caillou out there for, 3 possessions a half, just to throw him out there. I understand why McKay doesn't do that, because he wants to win the game, and these games are being decided by 1 and 2 possessions. So you feel like you can't let those possessions go. But I think on defense, he's at least serviceable. He might not do much for you on the offensive end right now, but I feel like you just got to find time for anybody that you can get out there other than those top 6 for, a couple minutes here and there. You have to do it. And I'm really my biggest concern, then I'll stop talking and let Will take it, is a front court depth. Like if you get into a tournament game and Owen picks up 2 fouls in the first 8 minutes, like what are you going to do? Do you feel comfortable enough to put in a Xander for 10 minutes? Do you feel comfortable enough going to a Caillou for 4 minutes? What are you going to do? Because, Owen has been prone to foul trouble. So that's my biggest concern with the depth, is not necessarily finding time for Decker. Sure, I think it'd be a good thing, but more who do we trust and do we feel confident enough in the front court behind Zach and Owen?
That's a great point. With given Owen's foul tendencies, I guess. I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, there's no more St. Andrews or Mississippi Valley States on the schedule to kind of figure out, I mean, if you have Enon in the perfect ideal world, it changes everything about the team. So we don't have that luxury, and McKay makes the big bucks. This is why he gets paid the big bucks to make adjustments like this. So I think it's still early enough where maybe there's still like a feeling out process. I mean, I don't know that plan A to tie that game the other night was Decker shooting the three. But I mean, he came in clutch, and unfortunately it was probably just a mental lapse there that maybe cost us overtime, or at least cost us the game on that one. So, you know, I think as we continue to go through conference play, I think McKay will kind of have a better idea of, you know, I'm sure he's thinking through these things as well. You know, what do I do if Owen's in foul trouble? So I think you'll kind of just still, I think McKay, Gabe, that is definitely a lock for the defensive bench piece that everybody loves, provides a spark for the defense, gives a lot of energy out there. I think offensively, finding that bench piece is a little bit more of a challenge. So I think over the next few games here, going down into when we get into the stretch, McKay will still be figuring that out.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that shot from Brent Decker, because that was one of the best shots of the year. And if it wasn't for a lapse on defense, I mean, that would have been one of the highlight plays of the year. So a huge shot from him. And yeah, I'd like to see him definitely get a little bit more run. Here's what's coming up for Liberty. This is one of the 2 weeks where Liberty only has one game. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm confident. A week to prepare for FIU. I think Richie's going to have the boys ready. And then it'll be a really tough weekend next weekend on the road at Kennesaw and at Jacksonville State. So we'll kind of see how Liberty goes. I think 2-1 would be a great stretch here. And then, yeah, I mean, there's just, I don't know. The FIU games are really the only games I feel pretty good about. I mean, I feel pretty good about Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State at home at the end of the year, but I mean, I don't know. There's not a whole lot of breaks. So that's what we got coming up. Final thoughts, John? Any final thoughts for us?
Well, while we're talking about the schedule, again, we're coming down the stretch, so it's like every game, every stretch of games is key and crucial. But you know, I like to break it up in chunks. You know, each week and maybe 2 weeks, and you know, if you can find a way to get 2 out of these 3 on the road, that would be huge. It's going to be tough. We talked about that already, but if you can do that, you're 5-4. And then you've got 5 of your next 7 at home. If you can be 5-4 with 5 of 7 at home, I think you're in shape that you could make a run at this regular season title. And again, that's not our goal. Our goal is to win it in March, but you want to be able to be in play for that regular season title. Who doesn't want to play for that? So if you can find a way to go 2-1, then you got those 5 of 7 at home. Again, they're not going to be easy. I feel like Sam Houston at home, I feel pretty solid and confident in that one. It won't be easy. You know, obviously La Tech, like we know what it took last year to beat them at home, you know, with that buzzer beater by Caden, or the last second shot. It wasn't really a buzzer beater, but you know, that was a highlight of the season last year. And then, you know, New Mexico State, UTEP on the road. I don't know if anybody's going to hardly even win one of those games this season on the road. I mean, you know, I think if you get a split, you feel amazing, but then you get FIU, Jack State, and Kennesaw at home. Like, you know, that's where you can put yourself maybe not in the driver's seat, but right there playing for a conference regular season title. And then those last 2 games will be tough on the road. But if you can go into that final weekend with a shot at winning a regular season title, you know, we'll all feel great. And I think, you know, an 11-7, 12-6 type year is going to be what's going to win the regular season title more than likely. I mean, you know, Middle and New Mexico State and UTEP are out there at just 1 loss right now, but I think you'll see a couple more losses added to their ledger here soon. But we're close. I mean, you know, you feel at 3-3 and 2 home losses, you feel like you're done for, but we have a shot. There's still a path to regular season title, and I hope the guys can get us there as we get to March, still within shot of that regular season title. That would be a huge accomplishment and really feel good after last year.
Yeah, stay healthy. Take care of the ball. FIU, Kirby, I know you feel pretty good about it. I don't feel pretty good about anything, especially on the road. But FIU forces a lot of turnovers. So just take care of the ball. And John, to your point, I don't think no matter what happens, you don't want to dip below 500 in the conference. I feel like that's a confidence killer. I feel like if you're at least 500, you feel like you've got a shooter's chance at winning the conference tournament. So I would say just don't dip below 500. If you obviously be as far ahead of 500 as you can, but don't dip below it, even if you're even with it.
All right, fellas, good stuff as always. Always enjoyed doing this with you guys, and yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks. I don't know where we'll be. This is going to be one of those seasons where I think you're going to probably feel really, really good about this team one week, and then the next week you're going to be like, oh, I don't know. I think you'll probably have a lot of those swings as this year goes on, but we'll be here for all of it. All right, for Jon Manson.
Gotta love Conference USA play.
Gotta love it. All right, for Jon Manson, for Will Mathews, shout out to our sponsors, Jason Porter Real Estate and Ironclad Coffee. Be sure to go check out ironcladcoffee.com. Get some coffee online. I am Nick. Have a great week. Go Flames. Nope, I didn't hit end. Hold on.